Hello, everyone, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today, I am going to teach us how to create a simple database in MySQL. We'll create a database and then we will interact with the database. Okay, so the tool I'm using is MySQL. MySQL is a graphical user interface that allows us to design and work with database objects. What are database objects? Database objects are simply our tables. Okay, so what is my SQL or what is SQL? SQL is a language that can be used to interact with a database. So what is my SQL in essence? My SQL is a relational database management system software that can be used also to interact with a database. Okay, so it also helps us to arrange our data in rows and column format. Okay, so I'll quickly explain the interface I have here before we go on. So this is my SQL Workbench. My SQL Workbench is just more like the workshop. It's more like the workshop we are going to be using. So I'll quickly create a new worksheet here. All right. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to explain the menu, sub-menu, the schemas, objects, and the rest. Okay, so I will start from the menu. The menu is simply, menu does the same thing menu does in any software. Okay, so I will go to file. The file, if you click on file, file is simply where we can create new documents, see recent documents, save, and also save as. So that's all for file. And then we'll come to the sub menu. The sub menu will have this SQL sign that has a plus icon. Now, this is where we can create a new worksheet, just like in Excel. This is where we can create a new worksheet. Okay, so if I click, I have another new worksheet. So I'll just cancel out and then cancel out. Okay, so this is where we create a new worksheet. All right. So now the second icon, which has the SQL and the icon, the folder icon, is where we can easily access our SQL files or quickly access our system or computer directory. Okay, so if this button was not here, we would close our SQL and then we'll try to access our system or computer directory. Okay, so if I click here, it takes me to my system directory where I can now choose my SQL file or any other file I want to use. Okay, so that's all for the sub menu. And then I'll come to the schemas. The schemas is just a house that contains or a container that houses all our databases. So the schema is simply where or a panel in MySQL where you can find your databases. Okay, information panel. The information panel displays displays a reference rather of any table or any file I'm working with. It displays the rows and the columns of what we are actually working with. Okay, so we have the execution portion or the execution grid. The execution portion is actually used to save and execute our queries. Okay, so on the execution portion, the first icon I have here is like a folder icon, which acts like this other SQL icon. It also gives us easy and quick access to our directory. So the save icon is also a quick save, just like the Control S. Okay, so it's like a quick S. Now, most importantly, this icon, the thunder icon that looks like a flash sign, is the execution button. This is where we click to execute our command, our query, and our syntax. Okay, so this first thunder sign is used to execute multiple lines of query, multiple lines of code, whereas the second one is used to execute single line of query. I use this one more often. This is quite confusing. If you do not do it correctly, you will have errors. Okay, so that's all for the execution panel. And then this white canvas is the MySQL text editor, where all the codes are being written. We have the result grid, and then we have the action output. The action output is one of the most important place in my SQL or panel in my SQL. It shows us, I'll quickly clear this. It shows us where we have errors, when we have errors, and why we have errors. Okay, so I will quickly start by creating a database. Okay, let me zoom out a little bit. Okay, so to create a database in my SQL, there are four major steps or three major steps to create a database in my SQL. Now, a database is simply a collection of data that are stored in electronic format or that is stored in an electronic format. Now, if we have collection of data that are stored and it's not stored electronically, it is not completely a database. Okay, so until it's stored in an electronic format, then it's known as 100% a database. Now, when I say database, what do I mean? A database is like building a house in an empty land, building a large house in an empty land, and then we have access, a door, into that very particular house. Okay, so we'll build a house and then we'll have a door which gives us access into the house that we already built. Okay, now to build a database or to create a database in MySQL, we use certain keywords. MySQL has certain keywords and certain reserved words, which allows us to communicate or actually carry out certain commands in MySQL. One of those words is the create. It's the it's the create. The create keyword is used to create new databases and index, also tables. It helps us to create tables, database, and index. Create, bringing certain things to existence that were not there before. Now, the second keyword we're going to be using is the use. Now, the use is used to activate the database that we have already created. It specifies which database in my SQL that we want to actually use or make use of or have access to. Now, next is the show tables. Next is the show tables. Now, the show is used to show tables that we have inside our database. Okay, so it gives us a clue of how many tables or if there are any tables inside the table or let's say, sorry, the database we just created. Okay, so I will remove everything and then we'll go right away. So I will say creating a database um, is just like giving birth to a child and then you naming the child. So you create a database and then you give it a name. Okay, so I will say create. MySQL also brings out the option for us to select, create, what do I want to create? I want to create a database. Now, what's the name of the database I want to create? I will say DB1. So I will just say DB1. I will say DB1. And then I will add a semicolon. The semicolon in my SQL simply means terminate. It means I am done with the statement, I am done with the command, and I'm done writing the codes. Okay, so let me quickly comment. So this is used to create the data, sorry, base. Okay, so I will now use db1, db1. I will terminate. Now, this code simply tell my SQL that I want to activate or gain access or gain access. Okay, I hope I spelled it correctly. Or gain access to my DB. Okay, so this is like activate or gain access to my DB. Okay, so the next is the show tables. Okay, so we have it as an option. We quickly select and then I also terminate. So what this keyword does is simply tells us that we want to see tables in our DB. Okay, so I'm putting a comment for those newbies or those who are meeting SQL for the first time to also understand why we use these keywords. Okay, and then I have the create database syntax. Syntax are simply rules and set of instructions guiding a particular software, a particular program, or a particular application. Okay, so I will say use and then I will say show table. So for now, these are the major three steps we would use to creating the database and interact with the database. Okay, so I will quickly come to the end of the semicolon and then I will execute using the second execution button that helps us to execute each line of code. Okay, if I highlight everything, I can execute from the first execution button, which is for multiple lines of code. And then if I unhighlight, I can now execute each and execute each. Okay, so for now, we will use the second icon. So I will click at the end of the semicolon and then I will execute. Okay, so I have a green flag here. Good, it works. So I have create database and my message here says one row affected. So this is the action I carried out. This is the message of the action. Okay, so I don't see DB1 here. Now, why? Because I just created it and then I need to refresh my schema for it to actually appear here. So I will hit on this little refresh button. I will click on refresh. Okay, so I will check for DB1. Okay, here we have it. I will see DB1. It's not highlighted because I have not activated it. So I will click and then I will execute and activate. Okay, good. We can see it's highlighted and it's showing us tables, views, stock procedures, and functions. Okay, now I will show the table inside our DB1. Let's see if we have tables in our DB1, if we have objects, if we have things, if we have items in our database. Okay, so I will just quickly execute. Here we go. All right. So tables in DB1, tables in my database. I have no tables here. Okay. So it's also my action output also showed me, okay, this is the action you carried out, show tables, and then this is the result of your action. I have two green flag. Okay, so I have two green flag. Sorry, I have three green flag. Okay, one green flag for the creation, one green flag for the use, and then the third green flag for the show tables. Okay, so if this video was of any help to you, please subscribe, share, comment, and like. Okay, so I will see you in my next video on how to insert or how to create a table in my SQL. All right, thank you for watching and see you in my next